Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, I am going to talk today on agenda and evaluations. Have you ever gone to a meeting and there's chaos? The agenda's been disrupted by no-shows, family emergencies perhaps, or maybe just not prepared. Then 5-10 minutes into the meeting, still trying to get the agenda squared away. How about attending those meetings that the agenda seems to be perfect, well orchestrated? Everybody in the meeting knows what they're doing. It flows. Everyone leaves. What a quality meeting is the talk of the town. The difference is preparation. Both clubs, stellar, I love when I have to use a big word. Both clubs work with excellence. One had a hiccup to recover from, and the one meeting had preparation. But the one thing that makes a difference is if the meeting starts on the hour, don't log in 1 minute beforehand to say, I'll get there just in time. The Toastmaster does need 5-10 minutes ahead of time to make sure the agenda is still set. No substitutions need to be made. Or if someone shows up, they get assigned the role. It's these roles to the meeting that make the difference in the quality meeting and how we present ourselves and what we prepare for. With these roles, they're doing evaluated aspects as a tabletop. Think about it. We have a general evaluator at the end of the meeting that will evaluate the overall meeting or Toastmaster, and that's impromptu. Observation, listening, their impressions. Same with timing. It's not really all about the clock. It's about calibration. And how is that report going to look? Academic, this was the time so-and-so had? Or is it going to be, wow, we had 8 table topics people and they were all within time? That's a calibrated report. Speaking, a little different. There's a verbal piece that you want to talk on behavior, and there is that written form. That's that coaching piece to help the speaker improve. But you know what it really does? It supports and validates the evaluator that they were able to catch and feel the appreciation of that speech and communicate that kindly with construct of equal concern and appreciation. Let's move forward a little bit, shall we? Agenda and evaluation. The agendas I'm talking about are the electronic form, templated on Free Toast Host for TI, Toastmasters International. It's a wonderful tool. Agenda is only one piece available on the FTH. And then later on, I'll talk about the Freemost evaluation tool. Not a Toastmaster International tool, but a DTM who wrote it that on WordPress gives permission to everyone use. And I'll show the benefits of both. The ease to help everyone engage brings the work level down to an equal playing field if we don't put one officer or one Toastmaster on creating this every meeting. It's about confirming our roles, being prepared, and other members, our friends, relying on us. Things happen. So looking at the agenda preparation. If you're not familiar with the Toastmasters website that every club can create, I have a link here. It is at toastmastersclubs.org. It's a whole site dedicated to tutorials, advice. There's a YouTube out there that's great, goes through each sections step by step. It even includes online payment for members using PayPal or some other system. It's worth checking out. When we get tools like this helping us on the academic use of our time and making it effective, is when we start to see excellence, because we have time to do other things. So you see on the right side is that I've got a generic Toastmasters page from the free host that would come up. On the left side, you'll see all the links to various places for meeting information, contact us form, meet our other members, which is voluntary if you do that, and other references. Come down a little further, there's a login section. I'm suggesting today that we're talking about the member login. What we can go in, confirm about ourselves, because we already know the role we're taking. That will be in here because the Toastmaster will have entered that. We confirm. Do it early so we don't wait till the last minute. If you're doing a speech, and that's what I'll focus on today, there's a little bit more information that you would enter into the agenda and then confirm you're going to speak. So just to reiterate, we're going to log in, and when I get into the login screen, I'll go to agenda, meeting agendas. How do you do the login? A lot of questions that come up with this. This is why I raised it right here today. You start typing your name in the field and it will drop down, and then you click it and it will come up and fill for you. That means it's pulled from the roster and you've been acknowledged already a member of this site, and then you would put in your password. If you can't remember the password, come down and hit authenticate at the bottom of the screen. It will generate an email to be sent to you for email login to change your password. Come back to the screen, do the same techniques, but password is entered this time, and you hit login. It will authenticate into the site, and you'll see the agenda. Now this is a little different now because on the right side, I have the top part of the agenda, where some Toastmasters will include the Zoom link, or the location, the address, the contact information up in the top part, and that's all built in. As a member, we're just worried about our roles in informing the Toastmaster about our speech. So we first look down the list, and wherever we have had our name entered, or we select to enter it, we hit confirm. It'll be right under our picture. Some clubs don't have pictures, they'll just have the name. This example, they got fancy, and every time they have a role, it's iconed with a picture. It doesn't print out that way, it's just used that way for confirmation. Then we go to our speaking role. Let's say we're speaker, and we have to fill in that information. You scroll down that agenda format until you get to where I am, as an example, and I have to put in what pathways. So I actually selected, I didn't have a screenshot of this, but there'll be a drop down to put in pathways, and you find Dynamics Leadership in this case. And then under project time, I selected level 1, icebreaker, and that's 4 to 6. Then I come down a little bit and it says speech title. For this example, I'll be giving a speech. There's leadership in skiing the Alps. Off to the right of that, right above, you'll see a blue box, evaluation form. Already with what I've selected for pathways and project, Basecamp has brought in the correct evaluation form. At this point, I can open it, save as, send to my evaluator, or my evaluator can come into here and save as and keep it on their system. Or I've seen it where I put that in the chat during a meeting so people could find it. In any case, that's that PDF writable form that you have to save as. You write, you save again, then you write an email and attach. And it's a beautiful format. All the information you need for an evaluator is there, gives them feedback. Last piece I wanted to show you on this screen to confirm your role is, as a speaker, you can put in a 3 to 4 sentence speech introduction for the Toastmaster or president, or how your club introduces the speaker. Sometimes the speech evaluator will do it, but that content is typed in by you on how you want you represented, right? Your speech is about your speaking. That's your time to shine. You want a little bit about you, a little bit about the title, not too much, just a teaser, maybe how long you've been in Toastmasters or what effects you want people to feel. That's your teaser, that's your introduction, and you want your title in that so they don't forget the title in your introduction. And then the last thing you do is the blue bar down below where it says Save Project Speech Details. Click that, make sure it's saved, and then you exit out. And when the Toastmaster or the secretary or the president or whoever will be in charge that week to send out the agenda, which is looking just like you've seen on screen. Keep in mind, I have taken out names to make this generic. So it would list all the presidents and their email, perhaps even their phone number, secretary, treasurer, the board, the club board of directors for that club. Right, all the club officers would be listed for contact. On the right side of that agenda where it says member in the header, that would fill in with all the confirmed roles. And that would align with the timing of this meeting to how that looks. This turned out to be a fun contest. So instead of speeches, they had contests. Doesn't matter. What would show up during a speech is it would actually print out on the agenda. The person is doing a pathways, the title of their speech for so long. And everybody will know what that is. So that would print out in the agenda. It's not in this example. The meeting starts. Everyone has the agenda. There's no confusion. Preparation worked. Everyone knows their part, knows their introduction, has the evaluation form, or perhaps while they're introducing through the pledge and beginning of the meeting, the speaker can get the evaluation form out in time by email because we're on Zoom environment. In the background, no one even knows it's happening. And it's clearly done. So it's a very well prepared agenda. Confirmed roles. Speakers added all of their information based on what they wanted. The agenda can be printed. It can be emailed. Can be both if you're meeting in hybrid meetings. But having it by email helps everyone in advance to see the roles if something were to happen. To have it available is really valuable. I didn't show it, but once in that tool, there's other things you can do. By building these agendas on this site, there are reports you can pull because you can go in, if you don't have a role and you're a very big club, you can go in and say, I'm not available that week. There's a yes, no, yes, I'm available, no, I'm not available. And you just trigger if you're going to be there or not there. People on the agenda are automatically triggered, yes, they're there. This might be confusing. I don't want it to be confusing. All I'm saying is that the analytics that are behind the agenda and people attending the meetings are recorded in an Excel spreadsheet on this site that the secretary and VP membership and VP of education can go to and look at who did the speeches, who's doing repeated roles, the attendance values. And where this becomes really important is when we start looking at Toastmasters of the Year. Toastmasters of the Year, how do you select that one person in the club that did tremendous? Because we're all doing tremendous. We're all doing what we think we're supposed to be doing. But when you start looking at the analytics, it helps make that decision by points. That person came 75% of the time. That person gave a lot of speeches, engaged in pathways. They volunteered to chair a contest for the area director. Whatever those extras are, start getting recognized for the value that you want to uphold everybody with and do it in equity. And values without emotion becomes fact and easier to analyze. Out of all the people that are the best, who's the one that had a few extra points? And that's where that analytics under the agenda preparation starts to add up and make a difference. Evaluations. Now, I talked a little bit about the base camp evaluation being pulled in on that agenda. Let me show you something that's easy peasy. First of all, when you look at evaluations as they are today, beautiful PDF format that you can type in, but if you don't save as, you lose all of your work. And now you're trying to remember what you've done, and then you go to attach it to an email to send, and you forgot to hit save as. And the speaker opens up a blank evaluation. You don't want that to happen, right? There's too many clicks to save as. It's a beautiful tool, and you do need to give evaluations back, and it takes 3 steps to get it right. But I know the content is exactly what you appreciated it to be for the speaker. In that day, that moment, your feelings with what they've said was absolutely right on, that you were going to help them in every way you could with that coaching moment, that written moment on the evaluation. Let me offer you this. It's easy peasy and one step away from thrill. Evaluations by email. You go into toastmost.org and you can find a link in there, / it's evaluations-forms. This is a DTM's project that put all of Pathways evaluations on Toastmost, a WordPress site, and in his credits, he allows all Toastmaster clubs to take advantage and use this with his permission. So when you go in first time, you'll see the screen to the right. Under Evaluative, Any Speech Project, you walk through these drop-down sections. You add in their timing, which will, if it's different, you'll have to change it, but the timer is responsible for that. It will fill automatically. You have to type in the title of their speech, and if you wanted to include some introduction comments, which would be cut and paste off of the agenda, you would paste it here. But I don't worry about that introduction. I actually use that as personal notes. Overall view of the speech was great content. I related, because we don't judge on content, but you put some trigger sentence that overrides what you remember about the whole speech. And you put in the date of their speech, and you then click Get Form. To reiterate, you go to the drop-down menus, and My Speech, for the example, on the agenda section of this talk was Dynamic Leadership. I went in and clicked that. Dynamic Leader 1 Mastering Fundamentals was the project I chose, and that is an icebreaker. And it populated 4 to 6 minutes. And then I typed in, now you gotta remember, I'm now the evaluator. If I'm evaluating that speaker, right, this is what the evaluator's doing. I type in what I remember that speaker's speech was, and that's why it's on the agenda. Leadership from skiing in the Alps. And then the introduction, I just remembered Linda will be speaking on that title, and I typed and copied that title in again. I hit Get Form. You've heard this twice. The first time I did this, I go, now where do I go? If Get Form was a different color, I think I would have still missed it. So you hit Get Form, and all of a sudden, you will see this email format in a database that has every section exactly from the Pathways evaluation form template off of Basecamp. To start out with, you put in the name of the speaker on the left side of your screen. You type in, let's say, Linda speaking. Right now I'm Lisa. So Linda speaking, the speech title populated automatically. The evaluator is Lisa, because I'm Lisa right now. And then you have the speaker's email address, and we usually know that because an email would have come out, or in chat you can get that during Zoom. And then I put in my email address. Both of us will get a copy when I hit send at the end. So if you messed up on their email for the speaker and the evaluator gets a copy, I can still send a copy by forwarding if I know, and the speaker says I never got the evaluation form. On the right side of the screen, same content. What did the speaker excel at? What do you want the speaker to work on? How could the speaker challenge themselves? That's the sandwich. Do it kind. It's about the behavior of the speech. Were they smacking their lips? Did they talk the whole time with their eyes closed? Were they looking down because they were obviously reading their speech like they couldn't remember it? Those things are so obvious and something that speakers aren't aware they're doing. That's the verbal, but you can also include it into this format. What I love about this form is when I get down into the clarity of spoken and the tone and speed, where it's the rank of some from exemplary to developing. The write-in boxes that you put in for trigger comments are expanded, so you can put 3 or 4 or 5 more sentences there than you can on the PDF form. Not that you want to over talk the point as an evaluator, but this is that moment of coaching that you have the opportunity at all of this point to look at the structure of the speech and say, was it a story? Was it informative? Did it require a beginning examples of substance and summary? Was it spatial? Did we need it in a comparative style? All of these and more can be expressed here for improvement as an evaluator coaching the excellence for that speaker. But you know what's going to feel very good? You are able to have time at the moment of that speech, have this in front of you, doing a little typing, getting the points down right at that moment. Most of what goes in the written will never be said in public as a verbal in front of our peers. Remember that. The written is so we don't embarrass someone, but get down to some very big positive growth moments. This form does it quickly, and once the meeting's ended, or even once the speaker's done and your input is completed, there's a little blue button that will say send, and it's gone. You've done your duty. You've done the best you could by listening to a speech and being live with your evaluation, writing it. Once you've written it and in the meeting you're asked for verbal input, you don't have to say too much. You get 2 to 3 minutes, so you don't have to go through the details. You can hit the verbals on behavior and just know that everything of content for your coaching moment is in written. It doesn't have to be long. Sometimes they're short, but having a statement in every one of those scored pieces reminds the speaker on how they could have done it better. Remember, there is discernment. Sometimes the speakers may not agree. So remember, it's our impression, and we appreciate, and I believe are the best statements to start every comment in evaluation. And then it's received so much better from the heart to the heart. No evaluations left behind. Please leave no speaker without a written evaluation. Written is a coaching moment, that one-on-one. It gives the pointers that are needed, and private, right? Spare the embarrassment. We remember that if we were giving that speech and we wanted a constructive evaluation, how it would feel if it was critical, maybe unbelief, or we just couldn't imagine we did it that way. Then you know that you're writing evaluation because you put someone else in their shoes. Always remember the Toastmaster way. Evaluations as a verbal sandwich. A little positive what we liked, what could have been done perhaps a little differently. And here's what I would offer in my impression today, what you could excel at. And you will have a winning evaluation. You'll have a winning club. Any guests watching the smooth agenda and this evaluation piece going on in the background to the speakers between evaluations. Now the verbals happen in the club, but it's behind the scenes and our experiences that make us grow faster than any other opportunity we have in Toastmasters. And remember, it's not about me, which is an acronym for me, managing excellence. It's about watching people grow, and I'm growing at the same time. I wanted to offer these tools because I found them useful, and not too often do we have people that stop and just walk through one little piece and show us what the difference might make if we decide to use it and make life simpler. But there's always choices, there's ways to do things. And we're getting so busy that some of these tools, when discovered, should be shared. And then we can decide if we want to use them or use them at a later date. Thank you so much for tuning in today. It's been wonderful talking about the Free Toast Host agenda and that online Toastmost evaluation. No evaluations left behind. Mr. Toastmaster.